It's the 2 Minute Drill. I'm Jim Monaghan along with Chris Swendeman, and we have a very, very special guest with us. If you ever went to the Stone Pony during the years 1974 to 1991, you may not know the face, but you certainly knew the voice of the DJ at the legendary Stone Pony, Lee Mrowicki. Good evening and welcome to the 2 Minute Drill.
Thank you. No, I still do special events when they need me. So, things like the jukes and outdoor stuff, indoor stuff, whatever.
Chris, I had Lee on Jersey Magazine, which is a public affairs show that I do on WDHA on Sunday mornings. And I confessed to him something that I don't think I'd ever told him. And that was, as many times as I went in there, I was so intimidated by him because Lee, coming over the sound system at the Stone Pony, which is one of the great rooms in rock, first of all, in New Jersey, but it always had a great PA system. Lee had this big booming voice, and I always felt like I had this little squeaky radio voice.
One time when you guys were doing the beach party, Pat St. John came over to me out of the blue. And, us as DJs, we've got these short little accolades that we give to each other. So he comes over and he says, "Great pipes." So
There you
I
go.
said, "Oh yeah, I got that going for me now."
And of course, Pat St. John with one of the great radio voices. Lee has just
Oh, absolutely.
published a new audiobook, Legendary, The Stone Pony, 74 to 91, and the People Who Made It So. And I know there are dozens and dozens of music stories that you could tell about the Stone Pony, but there's a side to it, Lee, that I wanted to explore with you tonight that I know you've talked about before. It's in the book, and that is baseball slash softball and how much of a part of the scene that it played down at the Stone Pony in Asbury Park.
Well, we had a team. In fact, we played you guys too. We had a benefit game with the some of the guys from WNEW-FM. But it turns out that one Sunday, well, I guess it was a Friday or a Saturday first, that Bruce comes over and he kind of challenges us to a softball game. Now, the guys that worked the Stone Pony weren't the greatest athletes in the world. Let me put it that way. So what we did was we went to Homedale High School, which you can see from the parkway, but it's real tough to get to anyway. Obie was alive at the time. She was Bruce's cook. She would bring the grill from Bruce's house in his white pickup truck. They would supply the hot dogs and hamburgers, and we would supply the beverages. And we used to play a doubleheader, and it was pretty cool until Bruce brought a ringer one time. And it was Barry Bell, his booking agent. Nobody told us that Barry had played semi-pro softball, fast pitch. And once we saw that, most of the guys were just getting mowed down left and right. Except, I've had some baseball experience, and I could hit a fastball, and I took him for a double in the gap. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he says, I got your number." So, but here's the real story, and I think that I kind of gained Bruce's respect. I had met him a few times at the Pony, nothing really special, but he hits a line drive first time up, and I was playing short field, and he hits a liner that I took off the shoe tops. And as I start running in, he comes over to me and says, "Hey, good catch." So that was the first way I'd gained some respect from Springsteen.
Now, you talk about, maybe the Pony guys weren't great athletes, but as I recall, they were all really big, Lee, like really big
Yes.
guys.
Yes. Well, we actually had a couple ringers of our own, the guys that had, worked and were friends with, and a couple of guys, like one guy named John Spinapont. He was an all-star baseball pitcher, et cetera. And he, after, high school, went to play softball. And he went to play slow pitch. And it turns out that anytime he hit a ball, it went 340 feet.
Oh my
And
goodness.
there was a time when, now you don't normally walk people in slow pitch softball, but people were considering it because once he got up, forget it, the ball was gone. But yeah, I started playing softball after my team in baseball had dissolved, and played some tournaments and stuff. And I remember one time played against Steve Balboni
Wow.
from the
There's the
Yankees.
name. Yep.
Yeah, and he hit a ball to me in center field that went probably would have left the Astrodome. That's how high it was. A big boy. He was a big boy. Yes, he was. But actually, what happened was after we had started playing, the fun games, we put a team together and went into the Eatontown Men's League, and we won that, and they threw us out. So,
I
but
know that
yeah,
Clarence had a team as well out of Big Man's West, and
yeah,
there's a
yeah.
picture that surfaced
I
about
remember you playing.
there was a picture that surfaced about 6 months ago, Lee, and it's
Yeah.
Clarence playing first base, and it's me, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm at first base as the base runner,
Yeah.
and the
Right.
caption that
Right.
somebody posted was Clarence Clemens and some white dude. And I came back and said, I'm that white dude.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was
You're the white dude.
he was so big. Somebody asked me how
Yeah.
good a first baseman was he. It didn't matter. You had to run around him, and
No.
he was an NFL player, a former NFL player.
Yeah.
You're trying to get
Right.
around a
Right. Right. Right.
mountain.
When you shook Clarence's hand, it engulfed yours. It was like shaking a ham hock. That's how big he was. But he had such a big heart, so it didn't matter. He was intimidating, but he was a sweetheart. God rest his soul.
Do you get the Lee? Do you get the feeling sometimes, and being around the pony, and now in baseball, that like baseball players want to be musicians, and musicians kind of want to be baseball
Oh,
players or
absolutely.
athletes?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you guys should talk more. Like you seem to like cross they like musicians cross paths with athletes way too much. It seems like they love the sport. Like musicians love sports, and
Mm-hmm.
athletes love music. Like I always think of like Bernie Williams to me, who
Oh, yeah,
was
sure.
such
Yeah.
a phenomenal athlete, but is an amazing guitar player. And it seems
Mm-hmm.
like that
Right.
they cross over more so than people would think, right?
Well, it first started as ball players, as musicians got recognized with Black Jack McDowell from the Yankees.
Yep,
He
absolutely.
he put a band. He put a band together.
Yep,
And the bass player in that band was Mike Mazzaris from the Smithereens.
that's right.
So little known fact, but that was kind of like the first time anybody of a ball player put out a CD, and then it just got carried on with other people. And I told Jimmy the story about Walt Weiss, and I had met Walt through a friend of mine named Mike Jaziniak. Mike was on the North Carolina team with Walt, and Mike was a great, great ball player. I called Mike the Pete Rose of the Jersey Shore League. Oops, sorry. So, and he was just the toughest out you ever want to see. Well, anyway, we're doing a benefit some Sunday afternoon in the winter. It's snowing outside. These three guys come up and they want to buy tickets. So I recognized Mike from playing against him in the Jersey Shore League, and I didn't recognize the other two guys. So they came in, we were watching a football game. They went and got a pizza, and then they came back later for the show. Um, I forgot who was playing. It was a benefit for something. Bruce played, and it was great. But so Mike brings up his two friends to the DJ booth, and he says, "I want to introduce you to my friends." And first one was Jeff Bradley, who used to be the Daily News beat writer for the Yankees,
Hmm.
Yep.
also the ESPN magazine. And actually, he makes some of the greatest ball gloves in the world. It's called Bradley Glove Company, but he makes them for young players. And then he says, and this is my friend Walt. And I recognized him. I said, Weiss? He says, yeah, yeah. He had just won the Rookie of the Year award and a huge Springsteen fan. And in fact, he wanted me to hook him up with Max Weinberg to teach him how to play drums. So eventually they did hook up and he took lessons from Max. I don't know how long, but so that was my introduction to Walt Weiss. And we
Speaking
stayed
of
in touch. In
drummers
fact,
and musicians, there is a character that you and I both know by the name of Jack Scarangella. Chris, you want to talk about
oh, yeah,
one of the
yeah, yeah.
all-time characters of music. He's played with so many different people, but his connection with athletes is just ridiculously legendary.
Well, Jack invented the selfie. He did. And now I don't know how he did it or what was his thinking at the time. He always had a camera with him. I think his mother coerced him to have a camera all the time. But Jack was a protege of Buddy Rich. And Buddy would take him to Yankee Stadium and all sorts of stuff. I mean, everybody knew Buddy. So after that, everybody knew Jack. So when Jack mentions a name or he shows you a picture of something with, and he's got tons of pictures with Joe Willie Namath, um, Jack knows him. You can just take it to the bank. So one day he tells me that Gator is asking him to teach him how to play drums, Ron Guidry. So they set up a couple of drum kits underneath a warehouse area for Yankee Stadium. That's the old Yankee Stadium with a PA system. And Guidry takes his lessons with Jack and he's playing and he goes to the bullpen afterwards to warm up before a game. Then when Guidry retired, the drum kit went to a whole bunch of people, Wade Boggs, Paul O'Neill, Willie Randolph, and Don Mattingly. So that drum kit has seen a lot of faces. So when Jack did his album, his first CD, he had Bernie Williams playing on it. He had Mattingly, even had a spoken introduction to a song by Phil Rizzuto.
Oh, wow.
And he tells the story that one time during a ball game, Rizzuto is talking about something, and all of a sudden he brings Jack's name into the conversation. So um, Jack was a good friend of Phil's and a good friend of Yogi Berra's too. But
So,
that's
Chris,
how he got hooked up.
Lee and I have
He
known
got
each other since the early 1980s. And I don't know if you can see
right,
what this cap is. It's from the New York Baseball Pro Scouts Association, which I've been a
right,
member of
yep,
for some years. I used to
hmm
be an area scout or an associate, excuse me, associate scout
right.
for the Tampa Bay Rays. And so Lee and I, have had this ongoing relationship, and we have to know each other 15 years before I find out that not only is Lee tight with the New Jersey Shore music community, but he's a scout for the Chicago Cubs. How did
And
that come about?
that story is a funny one too, because I had been coaching in the ACBL. You know that that league has always somebody's coming up to me. We gotta edit that. All right, he left. So the ACBL, Atlantic Collegiate Baseball League, is a league for college prospects. Really, basically for the scouts to see them play after their college year is over. So I was coaching a team and got friendly with a guy that is revered in the industry, Ray Bellino and his brother Joe. So they first, for the Cincinnati Reds, took me to a tryout, said, all right, well, if you can, throw some BP and maybe some fungos later, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the cool story about Joe Bellino and I'm sorry, his brother Ray was he was good friends with Billy Martin. They grew up in the Minnesota Twins organization. And Ray was supposed to go hunting with Billy Martin the time that Billy was killed in an auto accident. Ray didn't go. Ray's wife was sick. Otherwise, he would have died with Billy.
Wow.
That's definitely a wow. Yep. So afterwards, after I'd helped, it got around that I was able to help, throw BP and stuff like that for a tryout. The Cubs asked me to do that as well. So I did that, and afterwards, um, Billy Blitzer, who was the supervisor for the Cubs, asked me to have lunch with them. And I said, I got to go to work tonight, so I got to take a rain check. Maybe I can do it some other time. And he says, "Oh, why don't you come have lunch with us?" And I'm not getting the hint. So, then he says, "No, you should have lunch with us," is the way he put it. And so then they offered me the position as an associate, which I've been doing now 32 years.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But I've had some really great relationships with people, baseball, because of tryouts and clinics and things like that. I worked for a guy named John Montefiusco. I don't know if the name's familiar.
The
He was
Count.
nicknamed the Count.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
He
Yep.
pitched Rookie of the Year for the San Francisco Giants, and then he went to the Yankees. And
Yep.
we did a clinic in Colts Neck. I think there's a few of them. And his partner was Roy White.
Yep. Right.
And Roy, unbelievable gentleman, like you would, picture a Yankee that was just the epitome of being a gentleman ball player and of course a Yankee. The greatest guy I ever met as far as he had charisma like just oozing out of him. So we did some clinics with them and when I went down to the minors to do some stuff, we did, stuff in West Virginia and here's a story that's pretty funny. John Kruk is a West Virginian. And everybody knows Kruk as a big heavyweight. And at the time,
Yep.
during ball games, he was caught smoking a few times. So the story goes like this. There was a rookie reporter that was doing her first interview in a clubhouse. And she goes up to John, who's like probably just got a towel on. And of course, his physique was a little bit unusual for really an athlete. So anyway, she comes up to him and says, "Mr. Kruk, how is it that you stay in condition as an athlete?" And he says to her, "Ma'am, I ain't no athlete. I'm a ball player." So you would be able to picture John Kruk saying that, and, especially like after getting out of the shower in a towel. But she had probably never, ever, ever had that experience. Yeah, he probably scared the crap out of her.
What a way to break into the business.
Yeah, right, exactly. Exactly.
Taking things back
But
to music for a second, have you had a chance to see the
sure,
Springsteen film yet?
not yet, no.
I'm
I just
curious as to whether someone plays your role in that. I know Cats on
somebody
the Smooth
said
Surface.
yeah, somebody said that I'm in it and somebody plays me, but just probably just for a second or two. Nobody ever asked me about it, so I could have done it myself. But
Yeah, right?
Really?
I saw mixed reviews about it. In fact, some people said it was so dark that they just didn't care for it that much. But that's the way the song was too. All those the Nebraska songs.
Well, I think it touches on a period of Springsteen's life where he had hit two roadblocks, and one was turning 30. And for a lot of
Yeah,
men, 30 is the first time where you start to think about your mortality. And
right. Absolutely right.
the other was that he had finally achieved some kind of financial success. He gets
Hmm.
two albums out. He's in danger of being dropped by Columbia. Born to Run has a couple of hits on it. Things start to take off, and he now has money, and obviously not like the money he has now, but he's making some decent money, which I don't think he ever expected. And I think you take
No,
those two
no.
things and they collide, and voila, you end up with somebody who's on the throes of, falling into a depression, and thus the Nebraska album.
Back then, I think it was Obi that said this to me. He said, Bruce doesn't know how much money he has. And in some cases, when we did those softball games, we had to cash a check for him to go buy the hamburgers and hot dogs and stuff. Because he never carried any money on him. He just never had it. Didn't, and I think to this day he won't know how much money's in the bank. So,
I remember the
but
late Kevin Kavanaugh telling me shortly after the Nebraska album came out. Kevin, of course, was the original keyboard player for Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes. And Kevin
right.
said, Jim, Bruce told me I made the album for $1,500, man.
Yeah, yeah. He went to I guess it was Sam Ash at the time, and he bought the 4-track either Tascam or TIAC,
Yes.
and he did everything in his bedroom.
Yeah, he and Mike
So
Batlin sitting in his room recording it.
yeah, right, right, right. I haven't seen Mike in a long time. So
So, what kind of reaction have you gotten so far from the book with so many amazing stories in it?
well, the people love it first of all, and I'm now just trying to do some more promos so I can sell some copies because I think I've sold about maybe 100 copies so far, but it's all word of mouth right now. Now I've got to do some real promotion like we're doing here.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I should point
So,
out that it's an audiobook, as I mentioned, and Lee is actually doing the voice of it. So you didn't even have to farm it out to somebody.
no, and I wouldn't actually in a roundabout way. I had first investigated how to do a book by myself, how to self-publish. And people said, go to Amazon, they'll tell you how to do it. They do it for you, and you get copies, and et cetera, et cetera. So I went to Amazon. They wanted $2,000. And you would get 20 copies to start with, and then they'll get you other copies.
Oh, that's nice of
And
him.
then
Yeah, really.
yeah, and then they put it on Kindle as well too. Because it turns out it's going to be an audio book. And I said, well, that's what I had in mind about doing it as an audio book. And they said, we've got a bunch of professionals that can do that audio book for you. And I said to them, you know what? I am one, so I don't know if I need you right now. So I said, lots of bands sell their own CDs and stuff like that, word of mouth at shows and stuff like that. And I said, you know what? I could do the same thing. So I've contracted with a company to make the cover. I got the thumb drives. I duplicate the thumb drives on my own and I send it out. So that's how we're doing it right now.
Lee was as big a part, or is as big a part of the story of the Stone Pony as just about anybody else. And the book is called Legendary, the Stone Pony, 74 to 91, and the people who made it so. And you certainly, sir, were one of those people who made it so. For our listeners who want to get a copy of the book, how do they do it?
Through Venmo, and it's at Lee Mrowicki. So it's the way you would spell your name, capital Lee, capital Mrowicki. So it's at Lee Mrowicki through Venmo. And the reason why I did that book is that a lot of the people who were really the contributors to the popularity and the fame of the Stone Pony were never recognized. Nowhere. Even though there was a book that came out um, by a guy that wrote for the New York Times,
Nick
he
Corasaniti,
didn't
yes.
he didn't know those people that were important, like a Kevin Kavanaugh. And that to me was I needed to get them some recognition, like Obi. I mean, Obi was pretty much she brought us John Eddie, she brought us John Cafferty, and of course with Bruce and worked for Johnny, worked for Steven, etc. Without Obi, you wouldn't have a lot of the famous people that came to the club. And Terry McGovern, he's such unbelievable character. And of course, he worked for Clarence. I mean, he worked for in nightclubs for the longest time as a manager. And turns out, which I didn't know until, after we got to know him, he was a former Navy SEAL,
Hmm.
and those kind of people never get any recognition. The one guy really that we owe a debt of gratitude was Steve Popovich from Epic Records. He signed the Jukes in the beginning. He also signed Michael Jackson. And we used to hang out outside the club during my breaks, and he would come up to me and said, "All right, Lee, who's next?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He says, "Well, who's going to be next?" And then we start talking about the Shakes. We start talking about George Thies, Billy Hector. And, you know, I think it was Steve Popovich that put Asbury Park on the map
He
because
certainly
he
was
was
a
the
big part of
producer.
the story.
Oh yeah, he produced the radio concert for the Jukes in 1976. And people in the Midwest and the Northeast, they knew what Asbury Park was all about. Even though Bruce had two albums out, nobody was coming to Asbury back then. It was desolate. And Popovich, he lit a fuse, that's for sure.
Well, again, the book is called Legendary, The Stone Pony, 74 to 91, and the People Who Made It So. And you can get it by contacting Lee via Venmo at Lee Mrowicki, and it's Lee Mrowicki. Lee, thank you so much for joining us on the Two
Oh,
Minute
thank
Drill.
you.
You've got so many great stories that are in the book, and it's been great sharing them with you on the
And I'm
podcast.
sure I'll remember a few of them after we get off the air, but maybe we'll do it a second time.
Absolutely. Would love that.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.